Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets, interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. I'm not going to go long here in this intro. Number one, because it's part 2 of my interview with set decorator Jan Pascale, who needs no introduction, and you've already listened to part 1 and you're dying for part 2. Number 2, I'm working, I'm moving, I'm mommying, I'm stressing, and I'm podcasting, and it really doesn't mix, so I gotta go. What's one up watching? I ain't got time. To watch much this week. Trying to struggle through this Your Honor. It started out strong and now I'm limping along to the end. SNL I thought was fantastic this week. And I watched the next episode of Lady in the Dale, which I'm super intrigued. What a fascinating story that I never heard of, and a lot of it happened in LA. Again, it's a documentary on HBO Max about this woman, Elizabeth Carmichael, who's a transgender woman and a con artist, and a good one. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. I think it only has one more episode, so that's a bummer. Last night while I was packing, I put on Coming to America. Shit is always funny. And Eddie is so young, and Arsenio is so young. It's still good. I'm really looking forward to seeing the sequel. I hope it lives up. I mean, it's funny to me, number one, really, that the 80s and the 90s are now on TCM. I don't really know if that's funny or depressing. I don't know. But I do hit TCM a lot for some movies. I do want to remind all the ADG members listening that voting is open. This episode's set decorator Jan Pascale is eligible for the film Mank. And next week's episode with production designer Jim Bissell is eligible for The Midnight Sky. And since it's your last chance to ever vote for The Good Place for our finale and last couple episodes, I just thought if you want, I have an episode of this podcast titled A Good Finale, which came out in July with the production designer Ian Phillips, Adam Rowell, the art director, Gabe Perillo, the prop master, and Graham Radcliffe, the graphic designer, and myself. And we watched the finale together and talked about everything that went into creating the design of the finale. So take a listen to that if you're interested, and vote for The Good Place. The ADG award has eluded me 5 times, so it would be nice, especially to be recognized for that show. I miss it, and I miss the people, and it was such an imaginative show to work on, and I'm grateful for that experience. I really got to push some limits in designing the afterworld for 4 seasons, so it was a pleasure. In this part 2 of my interview with set decorator Jan Pascale, we discuss her beginnings in Pittsburgh as a set painter on Mr. Rogers. And then, the obvious transition to Roger Corman films. Her early work propping for movies and then moving into set decorating. She did films like Forever Young, Dracula, Dead and Loving It with Mel Brooks, TV shows like Gidion's Crossing and Boston Public, and then moved into Training Day. Hello. Then she has a string of these heavy dramas intermixed with like these hilarious comedies. Like Good Night and Good Luck, Anchorman, Spiderwick Chronicles, Kicking and Screaming, Leatherheads, Horrible Bosses, Argo, Suburbacon, then VEEP, All the Way, Vice, which is why, obviously, she's the White House queen. She has done all those beautifully. She has an upcoming film, Maverick, which is the sequel to Top Gun. Gotta see that. Even if I don't love Tom Cruise, I'm gonna see it. And she's currently working on the Obi-Wan series for Disney, which I cannot wait for. Jan's beginnings to now is an extraordinary career of decorating the screen. So I hope you enjoy. When did you guys meet?
One of the worst movies ever made.
Uh-oh. I can't even... All you have is winners on your resume. What are you talking about?
Dogs. I've removed... I actually took a few off.
You did? That's awesome.
No, erase that one.
Oh my god, I didn't even know you could do that. Oh, that's a good tip.
You have to petition them to do it, but there was a movie called... When we shot it, it was called Juvie, but it came out as Judgment, and I was the prop master.
Oh.
And the guy I was living with was my assistant, and it was in the 80s, and it was, crazy time. And we shot in all the worst neighborhoods. It was gang. Louise drove the camera truck, but she was the transpo captain also. It was all non-union.
Oh, right.
We were down by Park Plaza, and there was a drive-by. Her camera truck got shot up. She had to hit the deck.
Oh, my God.
It was pretty intense. It was these former gang guys were kind of affiliated with the show somehow. And it was...
Were they bankrolling it?
Well, no, it was bankrolled by the actress's husband.
I worked on something like that. I did a movie and it was, yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. Wow, drive-by on the set. That's crazy.
It was pretty wild.
Oh.
And here's the other crazy story from that one. I didn't quite understand, it was the early days of when I got out here, and I didn't quite understand product placement, but one of the characters was in a wheelchair, and I had to get a cool wheelchair, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I saw this when Quickie wheelchairs first came out.
Oh, yeah.
I called up the company and said, hey, we're doing this movie, and I wonder, would you loan me a wheelchair? And they said, sure. So I had this wheelchair, and Francesco Quinn was the actor in it, and it was Anthony Quinn's son.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a bit of a character, and then it turns out he was kind of stuck in the main actress whose husband was financing the film, which was pretty hilarious. But one day he wasn't there, but I had the wheelchair in the back of the prop truck, and Francesco came by and he said, hey, I have this buddy who's going to do a film and he needs to be in a wheelchair. Can he borrow the wheelchair for the weekend? And I said, no fucking way. I only had one.
Yeah, it's literally my hero prop.
Exactly. I'm like, no. And he said, well, maybe could he come down here and practice with it? I said, all right, he could come here. So Louise always parked the prop truck next to her truck. So I told her about it. I said, this guy's going to come. I don't even know his name. He's going to come and he wants to practice in the wheelchair, but don't let it out of your sight. So the guy came. He's practicing on the wheelchair. She was like, hey, get over here. I need to be able to see you, so don't get out of my sight. She was like giving him all kinds of shit. It was Tom Cruise.
Oh my God, for Born on the 4th of July.
I had no idea.
Wait a minute. Born on the 4th of July didn't have a practice wheelchair for him and he had to borrow someone else's?
I don't know if he was if it was at the very beginning or before he started or whatever. But
oh, I see.
It cracked me up. It was
wow.
Like, when it came out, I was like,
oh, that's that guy.
That's that guy.
That's that guy.
I don't know how much I knew then.
I worked on this movie and one of the actors in it was Seth Rogen, and it was like one of his first movies, and it was like a very small film, and like we all got super close and we all went out to dinner together. There's only one good restaurant in Albuquerque, and he was at dinner with us the weeks that he was shooting, and all you hear at the table was like and I was like, who the fuck is this dork? Who is this dork? Like, shut up. What is that laugh? He's never going to make it. Like, oh, that was Seth Rogen. Like, he made millions off of that laugh. So, yeah, you never know. You never know.
I know. So crazy. That movie was so horrible.
I didn't see that one.
No, I think I got that one off too.
Jen, I've seen 90% of your movies anyway, but then like in doing this, just trying to go back and like look at a certain things and things that I hadn't seen, you have so many good movies.
I got lucky.
I mean, I know from things like I read scripts and I'm like, this is gonna suck, and then it's like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and it goes on for 10 years. Or like, I have no way of knowing. Like, do you have any? You don't have any. Do you have any clue? No.
No, Clayton and I did VEEP, and we thought, who is gonna watch this? Right?
Yeah.
And then, 8 years later, 9 years later, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's Emmy after Emmy after Emmy. I'm a horrible judge.
I don't get it.
Every once in a while, I can judge. Like, Good Night and Good Luck, we felt like that was going to be really special.
Yeah.
And Sicario, I felt like that would be special. And Training Day, some of those, you think, oh, this could be something. And I felt that way about Mank,
Yeah.
And Vice.
Yeah, keep going, Jan. Keep going.
But believe me, there's like the Brother Solomon that.
Yeah, but I even for everyone that you have that's like questionable, there's like 5 great ones. I mean, and I think what super sticks out with me is how you have this relationships with these. It seems like, I mean, I know you work with more than 2 designers, but it seems like you get bounced back between Jim Bissell and Clayton Hartley, and you go from these super serious films to then these like almost slapstick ridiculous comedies. Like, is that your choice, or it just works out? Like, it's just it's a lot of it is about who I love working with. Yeah. I know it has to be.
Especially now, as I get older and my tolerance level drops.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No, let's choose a nice person to work with.
And how did you? Oh wait, let me start with. How did you start? Did you want to do this? Did you know what this was? I mean, so many people don't know what this is, and then they just get into it.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I did some in college. I did some drama classes and ended up. I knew I didn't want to be on the stage. I wanted to be behind the stage. So I did a little bit of that with a friend of mine, and at this tiny little college, California State College, in outside of Pittsburgh, in California, Pennsylvania. But I had no idea. But our other roommate, when I moved back home, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I moved back home, and the 3 of us got an apartment. We'd gone through high school together, and we were like the black sheep of our little Catholic high school. There were 4 of us, but only 3 of us shared this apartment, and we just were kooky, as we could possibly be. And my one friend really wanted to be an actress, desperately wanted to be an actress. So she started working. I say working, but it was no pay for.
Yeah.
It was called Pittsburgh Laboratory Theater, and it was experimental theater. And just, I'm trying to think of some of the Tom Stoppard and I have to think of some of the
people that came out of there.
Chekhov and
oh yeah,
things like crazy, just like out there stuff. And then so they called it environmental theater, and all the sets were reconfiguring some scaffolding. There really hardly any sets. And then they needed somebody to run lights and sound, and they were like, could you help out? I said, yeah, sure. So whenever she was in a play.
Where was your other roommate?
Yeah, she was a slacker. Yeah. She was always I'm busy. busy.
I'm busy. Yeah.
I think I have to work tonight. So one thing led to another, and there was this crazy comedy group that came who worked at the public television station, and they were called the Flying Zucchini Brothers Daredevil Circus, the All-American All-Star One-Man Band with Peaches and Cream.
Wow. You never forget that name.
Never forget it.
See, they had a good thing. They knew if someone remembers our name, they're never going to forget our name.
Well, they were all stagehands at public television at WQED in Pittsburgh,
mm-hmm.
where they filmed Mr. Rogers.
Right.
So one of the guys was just so kooky that I fell in love with him. So we started dating. I moved in. We shared a house. I was on the downstairs. He was on the upstairs. And I was in retail and I just hated it. I was like getting ulcers.
Oh my God.
I was like chugging Maalox. Horrible. And I was managing 2 stores on opposite ends of town. And I had this little Volkswagen Beetle, and I would run, from one store to the other. And I was miserable. And so I said, I gotta quit. I can't do this. I don't know what I want to do, but I can't do this. So one day I was kind of wallowing in self-pity, trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. And he called me up and said, hey, they need help at Mr. Rogers. Get your ass down here.
And weren't you like, yes, please, yes.
So I ran down, and I had gone and seen a couple of sets that he worked on, but it didn't really register to me that there could be a job that I could do, So I went down and in Henrietta Cow's class, I was wood graining the floorboards, these tiny little floorboards. And the art director, Jack Guest, said, hey, can you come back tomorrow? Yeah, sure. So I started, he kept hiring me on the crew. And then I became the prop master for Mr. Rogers.
That is insane.
It was pretty wild. And at the same time, these friends who I had known through Nick, I knew all the film people in town. There were only, 20, 30 of
right.
them. I knew them all. And at one point, George Romero was going to do Creepshow. And this one gal who was really, really nice, and she was an amazing artist, she said, hey, I need another person on the paint crew. Do you want to join? You'll probably be scrubbing buckets most of the time, but I said, absolutely. So we worked 6 days a week they called us into the office one day and said, we have to increase your pay because we realize we're not paying you minimum wage.
And you're working 6 days a week. So you're bringing home like $200 a week, basically.
Yes. It was pretty sad.
So were you how long were you on Mr. Rogers? Or was the Mr. Rogers the 6 day week? No.
They would shoot enough. It would be like a 6 or 8 week gig for Mr. Rogers.
Oh.
Or a couple months maybe.
Yeah.
That would be 1 week's worth of shows.
Right.
And then, because kids would get confused that, like, why is this man with dark hair suddenly be a man with gray hair? So they would take out the old ones and put in new ones.
Right.
And slowly filter out the ones where he was really young.
Oh my God.
So I would do that, and then we did Creepshow, which was absolutely insane. I'm still friends with most of the people that were on it.
Isn't that crazy?
But I learned so much because the head of Carnegie Mellon Drama Department was the production designer.
Oh, wow.
So, and these women, Ellen Hopkins and Eileen Garrigan, were the main amazing artists in town, scenic artists. And they taught me so much, like wood graining and aging and how to make rust and, just so much. And
it's invaluable. It's invaluable on the job training that I always felt like I didn't go to school for set decorating, but even when the little time that I worked in an architect's office, an interior design office, I was like, this is bullshit. Like, this is like, I didn't learn anything. But when you're in film and TV, you gotta learn, and you gotta learn quick.
There's no time.
And it's really up to people to jump in and teach people, because it helps them, mostly. If you're a good assistant or you're good, it helps everyone. So it really is such a, like, trade of teaching people as you go, I feel.
Yeah.
You have to.
They were amazing. And the guy who, I still credit him for helping me with Good Night and Good Luck. He doesn't know it. I think he's passed on. But Mr. Rogers, the art director, Jack Guest, started in black and white television. And you know how when we have sets now, you know, there's always a color code of, okay, this was this, here's the trim, here's the wall color, blah, blah, blah. They had nothing. So he would challenge us to mix the colors for the neighborhood and make-believe, the dots on the floor. He would just say, okay, mix the colors. We had nothing to go by. So we would just start mixing colors, and he would just squint his eye and go, no, you need a little raw umber, or you need put some burnt sienna in that one. And
wow.
Add a little red to that. And it was incredible, but I learned color from this man.
It's so, color, not being afraid of color is so important. And I would say I credit that to a production designer I worked with, Ed Rubin, who was nothing but color, and taught me on my first film, like, just do it. Just go for it and see what it does, and then you can always pull back. Like, don't be afraid of the color. Don't be afraid of the boldness of a pattern, or, you know, you'll see if it doesn't work. Like, if you have the eye, you'll see. But to make you, like...
That's so great.
Mix colors, that's a challenge. That's unbelievable.
We sacrificed a few 5-gallon buckets here and there. There was a gal named Kathy who I've lost touch with, but she and I used to just mix the colors, and then we'd sit there and paint, and then, you know, the director would bring his kids in and they would come and paint dots, and
oh my gosh.
It was pretty wild.
But when you were on it, it was already like Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they had been doing it.
Because they've been doing it since the early 60s and everything.
Yeah.
Now, how pissed were you when you didn't get the Welcome to the Neighborhood movie? Like, why didn't they call you?
And called me. I knew the prop master, so I reached out and said, hey, look, you know, if you need anything, just call me. I'll be happy to help or whatever. They never called me.
Wow.
But, okay.
Well,
I was a little crushed, but
they're lost. You could have made their job easier, I'm sure. You probably could have said, hey, more burnt ember over there. And weirdly enough, I thought you did that. And when I was looking, I'm like, oh man, they messed up on this. It's just not on here. When I looked, I was like, oh my God, I could have sworn she did. But, so you do 6-8 weeks on that, and then you move over to the George Romero. Wow.
Creep show. And then
it's little, like, babies and then zombies. Like,
crazy. Then I would do summer stock, and then I got a job as the prop master for Pittsburgh Public Theater. And the first show that we did that I was prop master for was Streetcar Named Desire.
Oh.
Which was amazing, but it was in the round.
Oh.
Try to figure out how Blanche goes into another room.
Yeah.
And it's totally in the round. So that designer was amazing too, and it was a great experience. So that was the first play. The second play was a show called Quilters. And
that I don't know.
It is this beautiful, beautiful play. And it's about women moving west. It's about pioneer women. And it's all based on oral histories. And each oral history is reflected in a quilt square.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was so beautiful. But the technical director of the theater turned to me and said, well, looks like this is on you, because the whole set was a quilt.
Oh.
So he built the platform that the quilt sat on, and he figured out how to hang the hanging quilt, and the rest of it he was like, you deal with it.
Oh.
So I had like 4 carpenters staring at me.
Oh my gosh.
And I recruited all these women who, had been affiliated with the theater, and we ended up having the most amazing experience. I got everybody sewing. We were dyeing fabric. We had a wringer washing machine, and we were dyeing fabric with this wringer washing machine.
Oh my God.
I had these 2 interns they were in like I don't know it was a diversity program in the city, and it turned out that one of the guys actually had sewing machines. He had Taylor, like heavy duty sewing machines.
Jackpot.
So we rented his sewing machines. It was wild, but it's still one of the most moving experiences. It made me realize that I was on the right path.
Yeah.
You get to that, you do that show and you go,
yeah, I get it. This is it. You
to
get the high. You get like the high from it, or the like, you're certainly not getting accolades. You're certainly not getting a raise, but it's the inner, like, oh yeah, this is it. This makes me happy.
Where we got a pay cut.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
They called us all together and said, we're going to have to give you a 5% pay cut. And we all went, okay, can we go back to work now?
Yeah. Can we hurry up? And I got work to do.
It's so funny. And that's where I met Tom Walsh.
Oh, look at that. I mean, isn't it amazing? You just meet the people along the way, and you never know.
Yeah. It's so wild. He was the designer from New York who came in to do a show. I think it was called An American Dream or something like that. And he designed this great stuff. But then during Tech Week, while we were loading the set in, he would come and cook Italian food for us. It was amazing.
Don't lose that guy's number.
No, right.
Carb up before a big set.
It's great. Sausage and meatballs and
wow, yum. So you got paid in food, kind of.
We definitely were not rich.
No. I remember making so much money. I thought so much money as a PA, but I never had any time to spend it because I was working like 6 days a week from like 7 to midnight, and we'd have like one night out a week, and I was like, yeah, start a tab, woo. Yeah, I know. It's still waiting for the big money. I don't know where that is.
Yeah, well,
anyone that can get it, get it.
Yeah, I say the same thing.
I don't begrudge anybody of any more money. So when did you dump the other roommates and then move out to LA?
Well, oddly enough, a beer commercial for Pittsburgh beer was being shot in Pittsburgh, and it was a company from LA coming in to do it. And this company that never had hired, they were like a grip and electric package company, and they would try to package it, and they would also crew people, right? But they had never ever called me. I knew all the guys, but they would never ever call me, ever. Every time I saw them at a party or something, I would say, hey, don't forget,
Right.
So they called me. And they said, hey, there's this beer commercial and they need a prop assistant. Is that something you can do? And I said, sure. And I said, do you know what should I bring? And they said, bring what you always bring. And I was like, okay.
Well, okay. My wheelchair.
All right. So I had a pickup truck with a camper shell. I threw everything that I had in this in the back of my truck. I had Fernie pads. I had smoked cookies because, who knew?
Yeah.
I had buckets. I had a Makita, the old Makita drill. I had little suitcase full of like screwdrivers and pliers and all this stuff. I had art supplies. I had paint. I had streaks and tips.
You were ready.
I mean, everything. So it's like 20 below zero in Pittsburgh. And I walked into this bar where they were shooting, and I reported to the woman. And she had me like cleaning glasses and doing all this stuff. And then partway through the day, she was opening the stuff that she had shipped from LA, and she said, "Oh, I wish I had a Makita." And I said, "Well, I have one in my truck. You want me to go get it?" So she said, yeah. So I bring in my Makita, and we're doing whatever. Oh, I wish I had some smoked cookies. I have some in my truck. Should I go get them? Yeah. So I bring those in. We use those. I wish I had some streaks and tips or crystal clear. I said, well, I have some in my truck.
I mean, why don't we just move our operation out to my truck? Because I got everything that you forgot.
It was true. Everything that she said, I wish I had it in my truck. And I'm dragging stuff in all day long, one piece at a time, right? And finally at lunchtime, I'm sitting there with these old friends of mine, and we're sitting there eating, and she came up behind me and said, would you like to come to LA to finish this commercial with us? And my friend looked at me, almost fell off his chair, and he was like, if you don't go, you're insane. And I said, absolutely. So my friend who wanted to be the actress had moved out here.
Oh, sweet.
So I called her up and said, can I sleep on your sofa? She said, absolutely, come out. People Express was $99 to fly from Pittsburgh to Los Angeles. And they said, you have to fly yourself out, but then we'll pay you once you get there. And I
Sweet.
said, no. So for People Express, you had to go from Pittsburgh to Newark.
Oh my God.
And then it was like a bad
worst.
Bus tour. It was like a bad bus tour. Then you had to change terminals.
Oh my God. Forget. I'm out.
And then get on the plane to go to LA. So I had this dolly with all my kit stacked up, and I would schlep it, boom, 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 up onto the airplane.
Oh my God.
With, knives and hammers and
when you could take it on.
And you could take everything on. So I would like bump it up the stairs,
Oh my God.
behind me. And then I'd bump it back down and bump it up onto the other one. It was insane. So I flew out here, and I started doing these commercials with these crazy people who then insisted that I stay at their house, which was at the top of, where Gelson's is in Hollywood off of Franklin?
I do.
At the top of the hill above that.
It used to be
Hollywood.
Mayfair Market.
Yeah, it used to be when it was Mayfair.
Yeah.
The very top of the hill.
It's so nice. It's so nice over there. It's
so beautiful. They lived in this like amazing house at the top of the hill. And I was blown away. So I stayed with them for a while. Then I went to my friend in Tahunga and stayed with her and her now husband for months.
Oh my God.
And then if I got a job in Pittsburgh, I would fly home. And if I had an apartment that was $300 in Pittsburgh, so I didn't give it up.
Yeah, oh, and yeah, well, no, you're not going to give that up.
So I would fly home for $99.
Through Newark. Through Newark still? You'd have to still fly through Newark? Yeah. Oh my God, I don't know.
I'd do whatever job there, and then I'd fly back to LA, and I was renting a car from Ugly Duckling rental cars in LA.
Oh,
and so I would just kind of run back and forth. And then Tom Walsh called me, and he had a job in New Orleans. So I went and did that with him. And then met a guy the guy who was with me on Juvie, the horrible movie where I met Louise. But it was crazy. It was just so nutty. I would just run back and forth wherever I could because People Express was so cheap. It was like getting a bus ticket.
That's insane.
That's insane. Then I ended up living below these people they had a neighbor that had a basement apartment. So I lived at the top of Holly Ridge Drive in this beautiful, like the backyard was beautiful. I looked out at Griffith Park.
Oh, I love it over there.
Morning, and there were grapefruit trees and lemon trees, and the apartment was tiny, but it was great.
Yeah, that's the Hollywood experience you want.
Yeah, it was great. And I was by myself, and
you feel like you're living in old Hollywood.
Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Oh, that's nice.
And then I moved back with Trish and Mark for a while, and kind of decided, okay, I better get serious. So then Trish and I came home, and then we drove my truck.
Drove the truck with everything in it. Well, then at least you had everything.
Yeah.
Did you do? How long were you in New Orleans then? Just a couple months.
Like 4 or 5 months, maybe. We did a little movie called Gathering of Old Men. It was another one of those amazing experiences.
That one I didn't see.
No, it's old. It's
Lou Gossett Jr., Holly Hunter. Oh, that's a good one.
Before she was a star, Richard Widmark.
Oh yeah, I like that guy.
And it was a story about 19 old black men and Holly Hunter. A plantation guy gets killed, and it was a really interesting, sort of racially charged.
Yeah, I mean,
phenomenal.
Especially if you're shooting there.
The experience was amazing.
I bet
it really, truly was amazing. All these people just let us come into their shacks, their plantation shacks. Talk about, I heard you talking with Don Deers about seeing how people live.
Yeah.
But just to really experience how people lived and still do, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Plantations, it was incredible.
It's invaluable to get that. You're not going to get that in books. I mean, you can try or research or whatever, but when you go into somebody's house, you really get like, oh, look at how they set this up. Look at how they make this work with whatever they have.
It was incredible. And I just seeing, they had all their grocery bags, plastic grocery bags hanging from the ceiling. I was like, what? Why do you? What's the story?
What's up with this?
It was so the critters didn't get into the food.
Oh wow!
Because they lived literally on the plantation, right outside their door were the sugarcane fields. So there were all kinds of critters out there.
Right.
So they would hang their grocery bags off the ceiling. So we learned so much by doing that. And then I met these crazy women. I don't remember how I met them. But I needed a picture. There's this picture that every family had in that area, and every plantation shack that we went to had. And it was Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, and John F. Kennedy. Mm. It was like one of those almost like 3D Jesus things.
Oh, so it wasn't like they were together. It was like just their faces.
It was a super...
The Trinity. It was a trinity of hope, I guess.
So I was trying to find one. I couldn't find one. And these two crazy women that I met said, we'll get it for you, honey. Well, we'll go junking. So I swear to God.
That's awesome. They came
to pick me up in a big old pickup truck, rusty old pickup truck. And there was this one lady, then her basset hound.
Oh my God, it's a movie.
Then it gets better. Then a basket, like a regular basket, right? In the basket was a pile of cash, and on top of that was a gun. And then me, and then this other lady.
Oh, I didn't know we were going that junkin'.
Oh my God. So then we go off into who knows where. I never did find again where we went, because I drove all over that place.
Were you scared?
I was a little scared at first. I thought, oh my God, what am I? When I saw the gun, I was really freaked out. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to...
Oh my God.
I'm trying to be cool here. I'll pet the basset hound. Oh my God, I was pretty freaked out. So then we go to these these homes on other plantations, these little shacks in the bayous, and they said, we'll do the talking, and they start trying to talk these people out of this picture. I ended up giving this lady like $5 for this picture that I needed. I was like, oh. And there was a woman in our hospital bed out on the porch, and there was inside, the bed was in the kitchen, and there were 9 kids running around, and
Oh.
I was like racked with guilt for weeks. Like, oh my God, we should have paid that lady more. And they were like, no, honey, this is why we do it here.
This is... They were flashing the gun and giving her a $5 and saying, take it.
It was insane. But luckily, they didn't pull the gun out anywhere, but oh my, it was crazy.
When you do movies in other towns, the best is getting in with these people.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The best is being submerged into these other little cultures, microcultures or whatever, because you don't, even though you're making a movie about that place, we don't see, like, the actor. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's
there
great.
Was a guy, there were this group, I called them the Coffee Clutch, but they were like 6 old men that were retired, and there were 2 little hotels in town, Thibodaux, Louisiana, and they would go from one hotel to the other on alternate days to have their coffee and just yak. So I made friends with these guys, and we each had pagers, so I would page them if I needed something, and I would go to the hotel and call them and say, hey, I needed Spanish moss, and I couldn't.
They were your buyers.
It was me.
Right.
It was me. I had this van, and I would just run around in this van, and I could not find it anywhere, and I didn't have time to order it from LA.
No, I mean, these 2 guys were like your buyers. They were your sources.
My buyers.
Yeah.
But the guy went out in the bayou and got Spanish moss off the trees.
Oh.
So when I got it, it was like filled with bugs.
Oh man, the effort. The poor guy.
It was crazy. It was quite an experience, but it was awesome. And I ended up in that same plantation house a year later on a commercial.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then you knew everybody in town. You knew where to get the guns.
EJ was his name. EJ, I'm back.
I'm back. I really want to ask you about that Handmaid's Tale that you did. 'Cause I wasn't able to watch that, but it had so many stars in it.
Oh yeah, Natasha Richardson.
Yeah, and
Faye Dunaway, Robert Duvall.
It
was insane.
I mean, an insane cast.
Yeah, it was. Again, Tom Walsh again.
Yeah.
And it was in North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Really conservative state.
Mm.
And we did on the Duke University campus.
Oh, no way.
We built a gallows, and we hung like a dozen or more handmaids.
Right.
In front of the chapel at Duke University. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're letting us do this. It was insane. It was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
It was very disappointing in a lot of ways because the director, who we had worked with on A Gathering of Old Men, is very misogynistic.
So why would he want to take this on?
So we asked that question too. We kind of didn't realize it till he was in there doing it. And he was, I don't know, and his DP, who was, I don't even remember his name, but he was so condescending to Natasha Richardson.
Ugh.
It was really
Igor Luther.
Yeah, Igor. Yes. He was he was horrible.
Wow.
He was horrible to her. They were both so misogynistic. It was unbelievable. And Robert Duvall I love him. I think he's an amazing actor, and I've worked with him several times, but, he's not necessarily marching for women's...
Right.
feminine.
Well, he's old school.
He's old school.
Yeah.
But it was pretty incredible.
Wait, do you have any Faye Dunaway stories? I mean, that's...
Ooh.
Or do you have too many?
I have better ones from a few years after that.
Oh. Jeez. I mean, I'm always fascinated with Faye Dunaway. Because I love Mommy Dearest.
Oh. When she walked into the room, though, you could feel the electricity. And everybody was on pins and needles around her.
Is it electricity or is it tension?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. It's both. With her, it was both. She was really not in a great place there in her mind, I don't know, in her life. So she was not so open with everybody on the crew. But to see her face on the screen, I mean, she was just amazing. But she would be in this scene that was really intense, and when they would cut in between scenes, she would just gesture like this to her makeup person. It was like, oh my God, that was tense.
Like a little come hither, like fix me up.
Fix me.
Yeah.
She was very commanding, for sure.
Natasha
could not have been sweeter.
I've only heard good things about her ever.
So nice.
Do you have, I mean, I do, but do you have stories of, like, actors and actresses, the demands of, like, I mean, right now I'm dealing with an actor who has allergies to everything, so you can't have any sort of, I mean, luckily I don't do props and it's not like food, but, scented candles or feathers or this type of, fabric and this and that, and it's like, I mean, I don't want you to get sick, but I also got to do my job.
We were prepping on, which one was it? First Horrible Bosses. Yeah, it was the first Horrible Bosses. We were prepping a shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the day that we were to shoot it, the main actress, her assistant who was her sister, came and said, "We can't have any plastic." So I had, shampoo bottles and soap, all kind. I mean, there was a ton of stuff, but you don't put glass on a set when there's in the water.
You
right?
don't put glass in a shower, period.
Exactly. So we had all the appropriate stuff, but it was all plastic. So Heidi and I had to race out and come up with a whole metal and glass, and we kept saying we don't want to put glass in the shower scene or in the bathtub scene, and they were like, well, you can't have the plastic, you have to get rid of it. So it was just and it was literally 2 hours before they shot it.
I've heard great things about the morning show.
I'll bet.
So that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, that leads me to my other Faye Dunaway story.
Oh, okay, good.
We were doing this movie in Arizona called Arizona Dream.
Mm-hmm.
They were, the director, his name is Amir Kusturica, and the designer is a guy named Krega. They were the DP and the DP, the director, the first AD, the production designer, and one other person.
And it's like Johnny Depp's one of his first movies, right?
So the 5 of them were each from a different region in Yugoslavia. And they had done this absolutely magical movie called Time of the Gypsies, which I watched, and I was still non-union then, and this producer that I had worked with before called me up and said, hey, there's this little movie we're doing. It's like $7 million. And we want you to be the art director and the decorator. And I said, well, those are two different jobs. And they're like, no, it's a little movie. You know, it's a car dealership and it's really small. And watch this movie, Time of the Gypsies. They did it, and it's the same people, and you'll love them. They're really nice. And we're going to do it in Arizona.
You get 2 paychecks?
Yeah, right. Well,
no.
So I watched the movie. I fall in love with the movie. It's magical.
I'm going to have to
so
watch
I call up and I go, okay, I'm in. I'll do whatever. So I meet the designer, and he's so charming and so sweet. And it turned into, it was supposed to be, we left in, I think, January. We were supposed to be home by April, the end of April. I got home at Thanksgiving.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane. The director was very stream of consciousness. So he would see things and write it into the movie. And Johnny was wild. He was so sweet, but he was wild.
Right.
They'd done away. Jerry Lewis was in it.
Yeah, I know.
I
tried really hard to get to watch this because I was like, "What, Jerry Lewis? How did this happen?"
It was insane. Well, it doesn't make any sense. The movie that came out doesn't make sense because they shot so much that the designer called me at the end. He used to call me Jane. I saw the movie. I loved it, but it was 5 hours long.
Oh.
And I said, heck, nobody in the United States will sit through a 5-hour movie about this nonsense. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So they made Amir cut the movie to 2 hours. So the movie that came out, I call it the fuck you movie because I could hear him saying, you want 2 hours, here's 2 hours. But it doesn't make any sense. It's like,
yes,
insane.
2 hours, 22 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's a short version.
Oh my gosh.
The real movie was 5 hours.
I had never heard of it. I was like, wait, is this Johnny Depp on the... And then I looked at the photos and I was like, oh man, it's like him with his arm around Faye Dunaway and his arm around Jerry Lewis. Like everybody had a great old time. That sounds like a nightmare. You know what? It was a nightmare, but it was one of those where Louise and I at the end of it, well, here's the other funny story. Every night, it was the second time Louise was leading for me. Mm. She led on a TV movie, and she used to be my driver, my set dressing driver. And I had this kooky lead man, and she came to me and said, I think I can do that job. And I said, okay, let's try it. So we did this TV movie, and she did a great job. And I conned her into doing this. She said, I don't want to go to Arizona. I hate Arizona. And I'm like, oh, come on. Oh, it's a couple weeks.
It's only a couple, we'll be home by April. So,
But did they keep adding sets? Like, were you scrambling constantly?
Well, okay, so here's how it started. So we built a car dealership. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like we found a car dealership. We found one, but then we built one next to the one that we found. So we built a 2-story building. Mm-hmm. And I'm art directing and decorating, right? And he's selling vintage Cadillacs. So I have to find... The transportation guy found some hero vintage Cadillacs, but then I had to find some parts and pieces. We made a desk out of a Cadillac.
Oh, cool.
It was pretty cool. So we did all these fun things. Then he writes in that there's a tropical fish tank. So then we're in the middle of Arizona, and literally nowhere. And it's the beginning of cell phones. Like my cell phone was like this big.
93, yeah.
Right? And when you got to Tombstone, there was no more signal to get to Douglas, Arizona, which is where we were. So there was a payphone at the end of Tombstone, and we would call and say, I'm on my way.
Oh my God.
And if nobody heard from you in 2 hours, they would come out looking for you because it was so desolate.
This is one of those movies you can make a movie about making the movie.
Honest to God.
Yeah.
So then they just kept writing all this stuff in. And Faye Dunaway's character believed that she could fly. And she wanted to build a flying machine. So then we had to build flying machines.
Oh my God.
So they hired these special effects guys who didn't get it. Even though they didn't really get it. They came up with this little motorized thing, and he wanted funky. So there's a PBS special that I had seen called Gizmo. So I got a copy of it and I showed it to them, and they were like, that's it, that's what we want. So there were all these, like, there were wings that she runs and flaps her wings that we made. And then there's one that we made from bicycle parts.
Now you're doing props.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing the whole movie.
Vehicles,
for like 8 months.
You name it. Then somebody sent the director the Cadillac Ranch, a picture of the Cadillac Ranch. And he's like, Jane, why don't we have this? And I'm like, because that's a written piece of art. We can't do that.
Right.
No, we must have it. We must have it. So I had to make our own version of Cadillac Ranch. So I found this guy. I had this phone number that, you get scraps of paper when you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You meet these people. I had this little scrap of paper. I called this guy, and he was a flight attendant, but for some reason he had a Cadillac boneyard, a vintage Cadillacs in Tucson.
Yeah, I can't believe you stumbled upon that in the same state.
Right? It's insane. I mean, I feel like I have been so fortunate to be, like, I've found things have come to me when I needed them.
It's because you're really nice. And people, it's because you're really nice. I would have seen two women with a basket and a gun and been like, oh my gosh, you know what? I gotta go. They were calling me from set, and I'm so sorry. We'll have to reschedule. Or this guy would have said boneyard to me, and I would have been like, I don't know, it's transpo. I don't know, bye. Like, that's why, because you're nice. And you're smart, and things come to you like that because you knew your shit. You knew your research. You're resourceful. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So this guy had a 2-hour layover.
And you nabbed him?
And we met him at the boneyard. I had 3 tow trucks.
There's a picture on IMDb of this. It looks like you've got like Cadillacs up on stilts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
5 of them.
Yeah, incredible. That's incredible.
I bought 5 of them for $6,000.
What was your budget? I mean, it was a $7 million movie. You probably didn't have much.
I didn't, but by the end of it, the movie cost $25 million.
Oh well, yeah, there you go. I mean, you're holding actors for that long. It's got to cost that much.
So the first day of shooting, we shut down.
It sounds like COVID.
It was April 1st. We're shooting.
April Fools.
Yep. And the director said they wanted him to cut 10 pages from the script. And he said, I cannot write and direct at the same time. We must cut shooting. I mean, they were crazy Yugoslavs. So they said, okay. So they said the crew could either go home and they would give them a round trip ticket to come back.
That was your out. You missed it.
I know. Or you could stay there and they'd pay housing and per diem but no salary. Or the art department had to keep working because we were, we had a million things to do. So they kept us working. And he came back, he wrote, instead of cutting 10, he wrote 20.
Oh my God. He's the worst.
We shut down 5 times, Kim. It was crazy. We shut down 5 times. We started shooting in Alaska. We built at Top of the World, Alaska. I had a guy build over the phone because there was no internet, right? Over the phone, I'm getting this guy to build me an igloo. I'm like, it should be about, I don't know how big are they usually.
Double it for camera.
It was insane. It was completely nuts. But at the end of that, by the time we built the 4 flying machines and her shop, and we had a 14-minute scene where Johnny Depp goes inside and outside like 5 times.
Oh wow.
There was a wall that went up, and I had Jerry Lewis in a Cadillac that was supposed to be in heaven, and he descends on a forklift coming down from heaven. He gets out, the wall flies up. He and Johnny Depp have a scene. The wall goes down. He goes back up in the flying machine in the car. It was insane.
Well, it sounds like you handled being an art director very well.
We built a cyclorama with little stars, pinpoint stars, in the street. It was crazy. I had to get the street shut down.
Oh my God, that sounds
fire
awful.
Marshal liked me, so I put my arm around the fire marshal and said, "Honey, I need to close that street. Is that okay with you?" Oh,
it's
sure,
okay,
honey.
It's okay, right? We're film people.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was nuts. But after that, you kind of feel like, okay, I can do almost
I can do anything. Yeah, you do. You have to have those really bad, like, what am I doing? Why am I up till 4 a.m. doing this?
Exactly.
I know. And then you just think you could do anything. So then when you see that schedule come out, you're like, all right.
Exactly.
It sucks, but we can do it. Like,
but like you said, everything builds on each other, and all the experiences get you to where you're supposed to go.
I mean, I'm sure your truck was there with all your jackpot of resources.
I had a big car by then. I was failing. It was pretty full.
So that was non-union. So then, was it still a while till you got in the union?
That was the show that we got into the union.
That put you in, so you had to stay. Really? Yeah. Well, I guess you got your 30 days over and over and over again.
But then they said, "Do you want to go into the Art Directors Guild, or do you want to be?"
Oh.
So I did. I actually talked to Gene Allen, who was then head of the art directors, and we had a long chat. And I just said, "No, I think I don't want to do that. I want to decorate. That's more fun."
Yeah. I always say Marianne Biddle changed my mind.
Really?
Yeah, I was stalking Paul Eads, and he finally hired me to be his art department coordinator, and I would take home the drawings, and I would like try to do the line weights, and I was totally into drafting, and Mindy, his wife, art director, was like, "Get out of here! Don't do this! This is a horrible business, whatever." She was great. It was kind of true, but they had built the set, and they had aged it, and like he's really big on aging. Like you just think people live there for years in stuff that he designs. And it was just an empty room, and I literally went down like the next day, and it was dressed as this like gypsy sort of shop, and I was like, oh, well, now I know what this is. Now I know who this character is. Like, this is what I want to do. It was really just, I mean, it was a beautiful, ugly room before, but this is who it is. So it literally like was like, now I got it. I got my path. I'm doing
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's that moment when you go,
yeah.
Okay.
I went from like, doing line weights and hoping to like, be an art director or set designer to like, now I got to start over again. I literally had to start all over again. It's great.
That's the special moment.
Yeah.
When you see it. And Paul I adore Paul. He's what a sweet man.
So did you work with him on Boston Public? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that show.
Oh,
I loved Boston Public. I stalked him because he did NYPD Blue, and then he was doing the show Philly, and I'm from Philly, so I was like, I need to work on this. Please hire me. And my cousin was on it. She was the star of it, and so I had been stalking him, And then he finally he hired me, and then he was there for one episode and then went on to do Girls Club, so he left. But after he hired me, I said, hey, I just don't want this to be awkward. My cousin is Kim Delaney, the star of the show. And he goes, what? Why didn't you tell me that? And I was like, because I don't want any of that. I didn't want you to think like you had to hire me or whatever. And he was like, yeah, but you should have told me. Like, he wasn't mad or anything, but he was like, this is weird that you didn't tell me. And it's like, no. I'm not getting it on that. I want to work here because of me, not because of her. So, wow. And then he left me, so I only worked with him for like one episode. But I worked with Mindy for a while, who I adore. And Paul, yeah, is so sweet. And his sets. And Boston Public, I mean, it looks like a school. There's such great character sets in there. And the lighting on Boston Public was good, I remember.
Thank you. He's so amazing, though. He would just design those sets with glass in between, so you could just see for miles. You'd see from room to room to room to room, which, doesn't help us. But
no, not at all.
But it was so brilliant the way he figured it out. The biggest compliment I think that we got on that was that a couple of UPMs called to find out what school we shot in.
Oh, that is the compliment. That is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What hospital did you shoot that, or like what? Yeah, it is. You have done a lot of pilots. Do you not like working? I mean, you did Gideon's Crossing, Boston Public, VEEP, Ray Donovan. I mean, these are good shows that you were just like, one and done. I'm good.
Well, some of them I didn't get invited back.
Oh, that's big. They couldn't afford you.
Gideon's was cool because I loved working with Scott Chambliss.
Yeah.
He was just amazing. And so sweet and so talented, and the set looked so beautiful. But when it came time for this series, I don't know, I think I was working on something else. A lot of the times I was working on something else. Boston Public, I did make it for, I did stay for a while. And then we were on episode 11.
Oh.
And Naomi Shohan called me and offered me training day.
Later. And
I walked into Paul's office and I said, I don't know exactly how to say this. And he said, you got a better offer. And I said, I kind of did, and I'm sorry. And I said, I think I have to do it. And he said, what is it? And I said, it's a Denzel Washington movie. And he was like, oh, you have to go.
Yeah.
You have to go. He was really sweet. And then Erica came in.
Yeah.
Listened to Erica, so.
Oh, well, that was good.
But yeah, and she loved it, and she was happy. But. Oof.
Then I don't want to sidetrack, but when you do training day, here, this is how I'm saying, like, it's a compliment. You just walked in and did these. You just walked into people's houses and shot them, right?
They were all built on stage.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
Well, we shot in the real places. We shot in the jungle.
But, like, the bathtubs, like, the house and the shooting, like...
All of that was built on stage.
Jesus.
But the director was nervous about it in a way. I don't know. He had this thing. So we always had to dress the location. And then at least the entrance, like the living rooms and stuff, we always had to dress wherever the location was. But all the real interiors were built on stage. So thank you for thinking that we just walked in and shot.
Well,
that is actually a great compliment. Thank you.
I mean, I know that there's one scene that I remember. Well, I mean, there's like that bathtub scene when I thought that was, oh, wow. And then I'm looking at these pictures on IMDb. I really thought they were houses. I mean, because, too, the architecture in LA is really precise. And to nail it is really good. Because it's kind of all over the place. We got the Spanish going on. We got the somewhat colonial. Like, there's a lot going on, and especially downtown in these little pocket areas where they had these great houses in the 20s and 30s, and gigantic, like even Victorian houses, it looks like.
Yeah.
And they're in the ghetto. It's a sin.
We shot in East LA. We shot in Macy Gray's house was, oh my God, there were a million stories from training day. Macy Gray's house was across from Imperial Gardens. So that is in Cripland.
Ugh. I like that you know your Crypt and Blood destiny. Don't cross the lines.
And her apartment was in the jungle, which is Blood World. So we had Bone was our blood OG. He was our blood gangster who he made the news a couple of years ago. He was when Suge Knight ran over that guy.
Oh yeah,
that was
he was the guy. Oh no way!
One guy died, and Bone just got really messed up. And here's the small world factor of it all: we did the pilot for SWAT, and Bone was our gangster liaison. And I went up to him and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me from training day," and he was like, "Oh yeah," and he remembered me. It was so sweet. So then it was like whatever I needed, wherever we went, he had his guys follow me to my car.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Stuff for me. I mean, he was so sweet to me. It was really nice. And that was like 20 years later, 15 years later.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
But it was scary because there were gunfights. Well, David Lazan, I don't know if you know him. He's a great art director and production designer. He was out measuring with the set designer in the jungle, and Bone was downstairs, and a gunfight broke out in the hood, and David was up on the roof like, holy shit. It was pretty crazy. Oh. We always had to have Bone with us, or somebody, one of Bone's guys. And you couldn't wear certain colors, you couldn't wear red, couldn't wear blue, you had to be really careful. But, again, we learned a lot. We got to go into people's homes and really see how they lived, and we drew on all of that we were exposed to and tried to put that into the neighborhood, into whoever's neighborhood we were working in.
Because it's subtle. I mean, it's not great neighborhoods. Right. But it is subtle as to like the different ways that they live in, and you live in different. You live differently if you live on the west side and the east side here, whoever you are. Like it's just a different vibe. Yeah. But it captured it so well, and I mean, I definitely remember watching it because I had moved here in '99 and being like, my parents are gonna make me move home. My parents are not. I hope they don't see Training Day because they're gonna make me move home.
The one thing that we did do was we shopped in the neighborhoods.
You shot? You shot the neighborhoods.
There was a couple little furniture stores down near the jungle, so I actually bought a bunch of stuff there for our set. We tried to shop, like I go to the thrift stores in South Central.
In that hood, yeah.
In the neighborhood, so that it felt like it was the right stuff.
Yeah, The thrift stores in LA are key. Whether you're hitting like the Jewish thrift store or the Salvation Army or the Goodwill in the different neighborhoods, it's such a great resource. St. Vincent de Paul is always the best resource for worn and lived in look, always.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Smiley, where the bathtub was, they were dealers, so that was East LA. And so we went to some furniture stores because they had furniture that was a little bit nicer. Like they had the reclining sofa and that kind of stuff. So we try to go to each neighborhood and kind of capture that.
And the color palette is so dark in that, and so muted.
Naomi was funny. She was really good at it, but she would get a little nervous about it, and she'd have the painter. We had a great scenic artist and charge painter, and she would have him repaint. I go, Naomi, I got to dress the set. Stop painting.
Oh, I know. I'm up paint's ass constantly. I don't care. I don't care if it's wet. I'm coming in hot at 8 a.m. So it better be dry.
Too. Luckily, the guy was really nice, but he'd go, she's having me repaint again. I go, okay, you have like 3 hours, and then I'm coming back. Oh,
no,
but really had a good color sense.
It does. Listen, the worst thing I think for us is like just white wall, like going to locations and you can't paint and you can't do this, and they're like, oh, it's all set deck, here you go, and you're like, well, great, it's gonna look like shit. Sorry, like I can't do this alone. I can't. It's not. It's all of us getting this together, and then you try to cover up with more artwork, but you can't make any holes. Or like,
yeah, exactly. What clever way can I think?
Yes.
To hang?
I really would love to come up with a like commando macho hook or something for us.
We need it.
Yeah. But it looks like you could have made a lot of holes in well, they were sets, but it looks like you could have made any holes you wanted in training day. So you're in the union, you're doing this, you're doing TV, you got this. Then you get to work with Mel Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Does that
It was fun.
What is it fun? That has to be. I mean,
I was a nervous wreck, and Roy Forge Smith was a designer. And he had done a couple movies with Mel. And
this is Dracula Dead or Loving It.
Yeah.
Which I saw in the theater.
Really?
I did.
Great. Well, Roy and I had done a couple of things together. And I was nervous about Mel. I just thought, oh my God, I don't know. I just was nervous.
It's Mel. Brooks, it's Mel.
Right?
Yeah.
So he said, come on, let's go. Let's get this over with. So he drags me over to Mel's office. And he said, her knees are knocking. She's a nervous wreck to meet you. So here she is. She's going to decorate the set. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. And he said, honey, I'll tell you, it's really simple. I'm funny. You're not. Yes, sir. Got it. And that was it. And then he would come up to me in the morning and pinch my cheeks and say, oh, I love this set. Oh, honey.
Oh, my God. Is that not the best thing I've ever heard?
He was adorable. He was so sweet. He would get mad at almost everybody. He never got mad at me, thankfully. But he wore a baseball cap when he wasn't acting. And he would take it off and he'd throw it down and stomp on it. It was hysterical. If he got mad, he'd just throw it down, and he'd stomp on this cap. And then he'd put it back on his head.
But like as a joke? Or was he really having a tantrum?
He would have these little tantrums.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Not that often, but on occasion. But it was insane. And so he came to Roy and I and said, we got to cut 25% from the budget. How are we going to do that?
We'll cut some pages.
Well, now Roy said, we'll make 3-wall sets. So almost every set was 3-wall set.
No way.
Swear to God. Yep. It was insane. He would say, Roy was a genius about that. He would say, okay, here's your camera angle. You're going to look this way. And you have this and this and this, and you can almost get a reverse, but you can't get the reverse. And Mel would just go, okay.
But
so
that was
almost every set. There were a couple that he realized he shot himself in the foot, and then I had to drape it.
Well, we can't win them all. But that's probably so genius in a sense because of like old time shooting. They didn't have 4-wall sets.
Exactly.
So I mean, I'm not saying Mel was used to that, but maybe he was, in a sense, and knew how to shoot them.
He knew how to do it. Well, he started in TV, so he was used to that.
Right.
You know, because he was on the Sid Caesar show,
right.
and it was live, and they were like 2 or 3 wall sets.
Right.
So I think that he had that in his, you know, in his mind. And then Roy figured it out, and he would give him the best angles, and he would create the walls in such a way that it really gave him a lot. And sometimes there was a back corridor or a back, you know, an entrance and exit. But it was genius. And, you know, we saved money.
You saved money.
It was fun.
And it was funny. Your dressing was funny.
Well, he let me be a little bit funny. Because every once in a while I'd go, Mel, you have to let me be a little, or try to be a little bit funny.
Yeah, you have to. But don't you find that when you're in a completely different mindset when you're working on a comedy versus
comedy
Sicario?
Yeah, for sure. Comedy is so hard. I really, you know, I love them, but it's really hard. Because I'm sure you found that. Hey, wouldn't it be funny if we had a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it wouldn't. No. Well, that
funny for you or funny for me?
Yeah. That sounds hysterical. So I had done Bones and everything, and then I went to Parks and Rec, and I thought, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what dressing is funny. I don't know if this chair is funny. I don't know if this is going to work. And I remember the first, like a bunch of the first episodes just being, like, so nervous of, like, I don't know if this is funny. And then it was like, well, my stuff doesn't have to be funny. It just, you know, you learn of, like, it's not about us unless it's written in, and if it is, it's usually a prop.
Right. Exactly.
But then I do start thinking about it like, oh, this character would have plaid.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
That's how you get your funny in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you know it's going to be campy, like the Anchorman stuff was campy, and we knew it, so we wanted to dial it up.
The Anchorman set is so... His office is so funny on its own. Of just... As, like I said with, like, Marianne Biddle, like, you just know who that character is when you, like, look at that set. It's done so perfectly and in such those 70s colors. You must have had so much fun. And the drapery.
That was fun.
You must have had a lot of fun on that.
Those were fun.
Yeah.
They're fun, but they were hard. I mean, luckily they all were so nice, and Adam McKay is a sweetheart, and he always appreciated what we did. And Will Ferrell, when we did his apartment in the first Anchorman, and we had the Bark-a-lounger for the dog, and the Bark-a-lounger, and we couldn't open the set because we had to go to Long Beach to get ready for the next day. So the next day we're in Long Beach. It's 110 degrees. Will's in a polyester suit, and he chased Clayton and I down the street to tell us how much he loved the set.
That's awesome.
He's like the nicest guy.
That's awesome.
And Adam's the same way. Adam is really sweet.
But so then when you switch gears with Adam to do, like, Vice, which was a marathon of dressing and sets, and you had something like 94 sets in 50 days or some shit, like, ridiculous. Wait, what was...
168 sets in 54 days.
168 sets in 54 days?
Yeah.
I would have been like, I'm out. I'm good. I really want to see that movie when it comes out.
It was crazy. And it was the first time Joni and I had worked together. And I thought, she's never going to come back tomorrow.
Joni and Dursky? Yeah.
It was our first time together, and I just thought, she's going to just run down the street. Well, it was pretty crazy. But I adore Patrice. Patrice and I have
You get it. Yeah. That is the key too with working with a designer, that you got to be in the same book. You got to be on the same page, and then if you sync enough to be in like the same paragraph, it's golden. It's golden to like, oh, this is what it's going to be. I know what he's going to he or she's going to want and what I can put into this.
Yeah. But, there's so much research about the White House. It's the most photographed building in the world, know. And then the White House by Design people on Facebook.
I know. I love that group.
People. Oh my God.
I hate Facebook, and it's probably the only thing besides like a quick scroll that I check consistently. And not because I'm working again in the White House, but just because like they come up with these photographs that you've never seen or never, I don't know where they get them. And then there's this one dude who's constantly trying to redraw every room in the White House. I'm trying to figure out what his deal is. It's great. Like,
some of them used to be the curators at the White House. One of them, when we did the LBJ all the way, I needed Jackie Kennedy's, when she redecorated, I needed the fabric for the JFK bedroom. He had the card sample. He had the carpet sample, the sheer sample, and the drapery sample, and the slip cover, and he had it on a card, and he posted it for me. I almost peed my pants. I was so excited.
What?
I couldn't believe it.
A gold mine.
It was amazing. They helped me so much.
I'm kind of afraid to reach out to them. It's funny.
Well, that was the first time I was angsting about something, and I ran into William DiBiasio.
Oh, yeah.
Said, don't you know White House by Design? And I said, no, I don't know. And so he introduced me to the group, and so I was so nervous that I did all my homework, and then I had this list of like bullet point, these questions that I had, and I said, look, I really appreciate it. I know about this and I know about that, but I can't find this and I can't find that, and I want to know blah blah blah. They posted the most amazing photographs.
Wow. I'm afraid of being thrown out of the group, number one, because I feel like I'm an infiltrator in a sense, but they let me in, so they must have, I don't know. They looked me up or whatever, but I don't want to rock a boat of like, oh, they don't like Clinton and then they're not going to tell me anything, but they post shit about Clinton, or like, oh, that's a dumb question. Look at, like, she doesn't know. I'm intimidated by these White House Facebook people, so I just like troll it and appreciate every ounce I can get, because I don't want to get thrown out of it, because it's a gem. And you can deep dive, like, there were some really good Clinton pictures of, like, his dining room and his private office on there that I hadn't seen anywhere. So, I mean, it's helped me tremendously, too. And thank you for letting me know about it. But
They're amazing.
They are. So, nice. So you did, I think you've done, like, every president, basically, besides Lincoln. Do you have a favorite president that you decorated?
Oh, wow.
Like, who, I mean, it's hard to say because of the times and what was popular when, I'm sure, but
I like doing it. I like doing the transition between JFK and LBJ. I honestly did, because they redecorated JFK's office when he went to Dallas, and he wanted a red rug, and that's why the red rug was in there for a while, because Jackie had his office redecorated while they went to Dallas.
Oh. I didn't realize that.
I found it out through these folks. I had a suspicion about it, but then they confirmed it, and then they sent me the pictures, and I like burst into tears.
Oh my God, I could cry right now.
They sent the pictures of when they just had finished decorating it with the red carpet and all the recovered sofas and all the chairs, and it was just perfect. And they took pictures, right? And they sent me those, and then he gets assassinated, And then they strip all of his stuff out, and they sent me pictures of that too. Oh my God. It was so, And so I told the director about it, and he actually made that part of the scene, like when Bryan Cranston walked into the room, he walks in as president now. He walks in and he can't step on the red carpet when he first walks into the room because he felt the presence of JFK. It was, I was sobbing watching the monitor. I'm like,
we're upset over rugs.
I know. But making the Truman rug and having that sculpted, the eagle and the stars, it was 49 stars, of course, so that made it harder to sculpt. But that was kind of the most fun, I think. The other one, doing Vice, was just, it was a marathon because we had 5 changeovers, and
I love that movie.
Thank you. Me too.
I love that movie. I love the pace of it.
The art director wanted us to do changeovers on the same day, and I'm like, no. And
of course he did.
He was going to put the setup on a riser, and I'm like, no. Those carpets are 30 feet long, and we're not carrying it upstairs, and we're not trying to get it up on a platform while you have all your greens outside. No.
Of course he did.
Ground. Deal with it.
I have such a respect now doing White House for years. Just the, I don't know what it is. And I've never been there. That's the bump. Isn't that crazy? I've never been there.
I've got a million books over here.
Oh, yeah, I probably have as many as you do, but I've never been there. I'm bummed that I've never been there. It's crazy to me, like Jim Gloucester, the production designer on VEEP, had never been in, I don't believe. He had taken a tour. The writers took a tour, and they took all these great pictures for us, and
wow.
It's like, it's almost like I gotta take a trip to the homeland at some point to see it.
Because you're like the queen of
the scale. You're the queen. You're the queen. I mean, I'll take princess. I'll take princess if you're the queen.
It used to be Ellen Totleben, and she got to go. She actually got to go.
Oh wow.
She did West Wing. She got to go. I was pretty jealous.
I looked a lot. I didn't watch West Wing when it was on. I looked a lot to West Wing. I looked at a couple episodes because I'm 90s. And that was 90s to look at like monitors and phones and stuff like that. So that's been a resource for me even because some rooms don't have any research. It's weird.
I know.
Especially West Wing and like things that you really, really want that you can't find. Oval you can do a million times and you got every angle, but try to get like George Stephanopoulos' office and you're like, there's one picture. We found like 3 pictures of the whole thing, but...
Kissinger.
But Kissinger, I mean, I'm sure. And the funny thing is, I mean, whoever decorating, we're all decorating the same rooms. Basically.
Same.
Yeah. We're all decorating the same, like, West Wing rooms with different generations.
I always thought we should do some kind of a show where we all, like, everybody who's done the Oval Office should bring their Oval Office pictures, and we all do. Here's everybody's Oval Offices, or everybody's, whatever.
Well, when I got approached to do the American Crime Story, I was like, all right, you know what? I know the White House. I can do this. I know it's going to be hard, but it's the White House. Like, I can do it. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And we were about a month into a prep and shooting, and maybe another 3 weeks, and the color palette changed. So yeah. So then I'm not doing exactly the red and gold stripe, which I spent weeks finding the exact inch, like how thick is this stripe compared to the gold, and blah blah blah. Nah. We're not, it's not really, it's a muted world. And so everything that I had picked, I had to redo quickly because then we was like, oh, now we shoot in 3 weeks. So
that's giving me a beat in my stomach.
yeah. And then I was like, why am I doing this? I'm disrespecting the White House. This isn't real. Then it's like an inner battle of like, people are going to know. Jan's going to look at this and be like, she didn't know what she was doing with this sofa.
That wasn't the stripe.
Yeah. So it's painful to me that it's not going to be exact. And then you sort of let go and you're like, all right, well then I got to let go. And now it's all going to be different. So now it's almost a little bit freeing that I get to be a little bit different.
But I get it. I would, yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
It is.
And I think those White House people are going to hate it. And so
I live in fear of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm going to get so busted on this one.
yeah, that's what I think. I think I'm going to get thrown out of that Facebook group once they see this show.
She changed the cotton sofas, you know.
She changed it. She's trying to rewrite history.
No, those Hollywood people.
Yeah, disrespecting our world. So yeah, that's my biggest fear whenever this comes out, because who the hell knows now. I'm sure this is gonna be my forever Arizona, and I'm gonna be on it for another year.
Right? I know.
She's such a talent, and I've learned so much from her and her sets, and I've stolen from her. Like I said, again, watch Mank. It's beautifully done. It really is. It's just an all-around beautiful film. Vote for the ADG Awards and the Oscars. Your homework this week is to watch The Midnight Sky. If you want to reminisce, watch E.T. to prep for our next episode with production designer Jim Bizzle. I hope you got an earful. I'm Kim One Up for Decorating Pages. There's still time to purchase that perfect Valentine's Day gift. The Stogie Floaty. Float in style. Stogie Floaty Luxury Pull Float. Available now on Etsy and stogiefloaty.com.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. After completing the renovation, follow up with the customer to ensure their satisfaction and address any remaining concerns. Provide maintenance tips and guidance to help them preserve the results of the renovation for years to come. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.